Friends, in this video we are going to look at short answer questions and one question which is concerning the AC part. Two questions. The first one is coming from digestive system, the second one is coming from genetics, and the last one is coming from respiration. So let's start with the first one. So the first one is saying figure 2 shows part of the human digestive system. So we have part L, which is called the liver, part K, which is called the bile duct, part H, which is called the pancreas, J, which is called the large intestine, also these which are called the small intestine, part I, which is called the rectum. So the anus is this one, and this one is the rectum. So other parts like the esophagus, also have the stomach. So those are the major parts that we have here. So let's see the first question. So the first question is saying identify the parts labeled H and I in figure 2. Okay, so we have H, which is called the pancreas. So you need also to know the function of the pancreas, by the way. So pancreas secretes two hormones, that is the insulin and the glucagon. So the insulin is secreted by the beta cells or the beta cells, and the glucagon is secreted by the alpha cells. Right. So what is the effect of these hormones? So these hormones, they have an effect to the level of glucose in the blood. So insulin is going to convert blood sugar, which we call glucose, into liver glycogen and muscle glycogen. What about glucagon? Glucagon is going to convert liver glycogen and muscle glycogen into glucose. So when do these happen? So you're going to find that insulin is going to be secreted when you are having a lot of blood sugar or glucose in your body, or just after eating the meal, because you're going to have a lot of glucose in your blood. Then when is glucagon secreted? So glucagon is secreted during starvation or fasting, because you don't have a lot of energy. So you want now that stored glycogen to be converted back into glucose, so that can be used by the body. For example, the brain, which rely on glucose for it to function. What about structure I? We have said structure I is called the rectum. So what is the function of the rectum? So you're going to find that the rectum, it just store solid waste. In this case, it just store feces temporarily. So that is the function of the rectum. Question B saying explain the function of the parts labeled J and K in figure 2. So we know to say that part labeled J is called the large intestine. So what is the function of the large intestine? That is where now the absorption of water takes place. So the absorption of nutrients takes place in the small intestine, which are these are the small intestine, and this one is the large intestine. So in the large intestine, that is where the absorption of water takes place, and in the small intestine, that is where now the absorption of nutrients takes place. We also have part labeled K, which is the bile duct. So what is the function of the bile duct? So the function of the bile duct is to store bile temporarily for secretion. So those are the functions. So let's see the second question. So the second question is saying state 3 metabolic functions of the part labeled L. So we have part labeled L, which is called the liver. So what are the metabolic functions of the liver? So the first one is production of bile, or bile production if you want. And where is this bile needed? It's needed in the emulsification of fats into droplets. Apart from that one, as bile production, you can talk of red blood cell production. Apart from red blood cell production, you can talk of storing glucose in form of liver glycogen. Storage of glycogen in form of liver glycogen. Apart from that one, detoxification of drugs such as alcohol and other substances. Apart from that one, it is also has an important role in homeostasis, as it is able to produce what? Heat. So in this case, we can say production of heat. Then for question D, outline 2 effects of the ailments of the part labeled J in figure 2. So let's see part J. So part J is the large intestine. So in talk of the ailments, this term here, ailments, this one refers to the diseases. So if the large intestine is affected by diseases, what is going to be the effect? Let's say the large intestine is not able to absorb the water. So we know to say that the large intestine absorbs water. So now if the large intestine is failing to absorb water, or it is having the ailments, what is going to be the effect? The first effect is going to fail to absorb water. Once it fails to absorb water, water is going to accumulate in the large intestine, and this one is going to lead to diarrhea. Apart from diarrhea, it is going to cause constipation. Apart from constipation, abdominal pain and collapse. Apart from abdominal pain and collapse, it's going to lead to weight loss and fatigue. So you're going to have weight loss and you're going to feel fatigue, tiredness. So those are the effects. So you just need to pick two which are simple for you. So let's see the next question from genetics, and it's saying figure 5 shows blood groups phenotypes for a mother and have 2 children. So we have the father who is having blood group which is unknown, the mother is having blood group A, we have the son with blood group O, we have the daughter with blood group B. So from figure 5 we need to deduce the genotypes of the father and the mother. So for you to be able to answer this question, the first thing you need to look at the offsprings that they have produced. Mind you, or remember, the father is having the group which is unknown, the blood group which is unknown. So for us to identify the blood group of the father, we need to look at the offsprings. Since the mother is blood group A, so meaning this, here we can't get B, but here we're having B. So where is the B coming from? Definitely the B is going to come from the father. So we know that the father is blood group B. Now we're not done, because we don't know if the father is having blood group B heterozygous dominant or homozygous dominant. So for us to tell if the father is having blood group B dominant or heterozygous dominant or homozygous dominant, we need to look at the blood group of the other son, or of the other offspring. So the son is having blood group O. So where is this O coming from? We know to say O exists as homozygous recessive. So meaning one O is going to come from the mother and another O is going to come from the father. So this concludes that the father is blood group B heterozygous dominant and the mother is blood group A heterozygous dominant. So in talk of the genotypes, they are represented by alleles. So we're supposed to use letters. And you know to say alleles, they go in pairs, or they occur in pairs. Okay, so the father is having blood group B, and here we're going to say I to the power B and I to the power O. The mother, I to the power A and I to the power O. So that is how we are supposed to answer this question. If the question was saying from figure 5, deduce the phenotype. So meaning you need to say the mother is having blood group A and the father is having blood group B. That's so, without using the alleles, if it was the phenotype. So let's see the second. So the second question, which is saying the father divorced the wife. So we know that the wife is having blood group B, blood group A. So and the father is having blood group B, heterozygous dominant. So the father decided to divorce the wife and married another woman with blood group B. So you don't know if this woman that this father married was having blood group B or heterozygous or homozygous dominant. But according to the first child that they had, the child had blood group O. So meaning one was coming from the woman and another was coming from the father. So with the help of the genetic diagram, explain how this was possible. So sometimes the question can say, with the help of the genetic diagram, find the chances. So when you talk of the chances, you need to find the probability at the end. So in this case, it's not talking about the chances, so you're not supposed to find the probability at the end. But I'm going to show you how to find the probability also. So let's start with the parental phenotype. So in talk of the parental phenotype, what do we have? We have the father close with the woman. Then the next one is the genotype, parental genotype. So the genotype, remember, they are represented by the alleles, and alleles, they go in pairs. So the father is having blood group B, which is similarly the woman is also having the same blood type, which is B. Splitting the gametes, we are going to split the gametes of the father and the splitting the gametes of the woman. Then what follows next is random assortment. When it comes to random assortment, it is also known as fertilization. So we are crossing to find the chances if we're going to have a child is going to have blood group O. Okay, so the first child that we are going to have is going to have blood group B, and that blood group B is going to be homozygous dominant. Then the second one is going to be blood group B, and this one is going to be heterozygous dominant because it is having B and O. Even the second one is going to have it's going to be blood group B, and it's going to be heterozygous dominant. And finally, the last one is going to be blood group O, and we know to say blood group O exists as homozygous recessive. So we're going to have OO. So at least we're having a child who's having blood group O. So what we have here, we are going to call this one as the first filler, or we can say F1 genotype, because all these, they are genotypes. So the second one is going to be F1 genotype. Here we are going to specify, since we have 3 offsprings who are having blood group B, so we're going to say blood group B, blood group B, blood group B, and the last one blood group O. So when it comes to finding the chances of having the son who is having group O, what are we supposed to do? So how many offsprings are we having who are having blood group O? We just have 1, and the total number of offspring is just 4. So we need to say 1 divided by 4. Then what are we going to have? We are going to have 0.25. So this 0.25, you need to multiply it by 100% so that you get 25%. So it's going to be 25%. So that is the chance of them having a child with blood group O. So that was the last one for the short answer questions. So let's diverge into the SE part. So for the SE part, instructions, or the instruction is saying answer any 3 questions from this section and write your answers in the separate answer booklet provided. So the system has been updated for ECZ, so you're not supposed to write the answers in the separate answer sheet or answer booklet. You're supposed to write the answers in the same question paper. Right. So all answers should be in incomplete sentences and in paragraphs. So no need of you answering in point form, you need to write it in paragraph form. So we have the first question, and I've said this one is coming from the inspiration. So the first one is saying explain the importance of respiration to marks. So you need to focus on looking at the marks, because you can write a lot of things and that question is carrying small marks. So you need also to look at the marks. Then question B saying compare and contrast aerobic and anaerobic respiration. So we have 6 marks. So we are going to divide it into 3 marks and 3 marks. 3 marks for comparing and 3 marks for contrasting. The last question, explain the industrial application of respiration. So let's start answering the questions. So the first thing, you need to define what respiration is. So we know to say respiration is the process by which living organisms release energy from the food that they eat. So starting with a definition is very, very important. So we know to say respiration is the process by which living organisms release energy from the food that they eat. And then from there we can continue by talking about the importance of respiration. So we know that this respiration is needed for all life processes. What are these life processes? We can talk of movement, locomotion, growth, and repairment. Apart from that one, conduction of electrical impulse, which is going to fall under sensitivity. Apart from that one, we can talk of cell division. Respiration is needed. Energy is needed for cells to divide by mitosis and meiosis. Then apart from that one, we need to give an emphasis on why this respiration is important. So you know to say that without respiration, cells would not get the energy they need to survive. So the main emphasis here is that cells get energy for them to survive. So we are done for the first question, which is question A. Then for question B, we are comparing and contrasting aerobic and anaerobic respiration, and we have divided this into 3 marks and 3 marks. 3 marks for comparing and 3 marks for contrasting. So we need to start with the comparing. So in talk of aerobic respiration, this one uses oxygen, you know that. What about anaerobic respiration? This one doesn't use oxygen. So we're going to say aerobic respiration uses oxygen to break down glucose and release a lot of energy. So once it uses oxygen, it's going to release a lot of energy. But what about anaerobic respiration? Anaerobic respiration does not use energy, does not use oxygen, and it releases less energy and produce different products like lactic acid in animals and alcohol, and we can say alcohol and carbon dioxide during fermentation in yeast. But what about aerobic respiration? We know to say when it uses oxygen, it is going to produce what? It's going to produce carbon dioxide and water, right? Then the last part, which is for contrasting, we're going to say both processes release energy from glucose, but aerobic respiration is more efficient. We not say that our body rely on aerobic respiration, but sometimes when you're lacking oxygen in the tissues or around parts of the body, you're going to find that anaerobic respiration is going to take over to provide energy, right? So the second part, or the second point that we can include in our answer, we can say aerobic respiration happens in most cells most of the time, while anaerobic respiration happens when oxygen is not available, like during intense exercise, fasting, or starvation. That is when you can use anaerobic respiration. So those are the answers for question B. Then for question C, it is asking us to write the industrial application of distillation. So we need to say anaerobic distillation is more applicable when it comes to industrial application. Why? We need to say fermentation is important in the production of alcohols. So we are going to say anaerobic distillation is used in industry in the process of fermentation, production of alcohol. So this includes where they are going to use yeast to make bread, producing carbon dioxide to make duff lies, and alcohol in brewing and wine making. So that is very, very important. Apart from that one, we need to say that the bacteria which ferments or which are used in the production of yogurt and cheese works in the absence of oxygen. So bacteria are used in yogurt and cheese production. Why? This is because they are more active where there is no oxygen. In other words, during anaerobic distillation. And the last one we are going to say, these processes are important for food and drink industry production. So that was the last one. Thanks for watching, and remember to subscribe.